Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Grossman Files. Hey, we got a great one for you today. Yes, everybody. We got a great one. So, first of all, thanks to everybody out there in Son of Sam land for joining me on yet another live stream. And my ears are ringing. Somewhere I hear the echo. Somewhere out in a deep, dark hole in Sullivan County, in upstate New York, a phone is ringing. And why is a phone ringing? Well, we got another case for you guys. We got another case to discuss, or should I say another set of cases, another set of very curious cases that actually we've been sitting on for a year now. Wondering, like, how do we bring this out? How do we present this to the public? And also all sorts of questions about, like, should we do this? Was this really him? Are we opening up ourselves to too much criticism and ridicule? And but then something came into my desk the other night that, well, blew me away, blew Lorenzo away, and impressed some other law enforcement figures who shall remain nameless. And so I decided to go public with this because, well, the spidey senses are going on overload. And, well, I just figured, what the hell? Let's discuss it. Let's sit and reason together. And I just want to say a couple of things before we begin. As I say hello to the queen of all queens, Ruby, my man Cosmos, and whoever else is here, of course, on this Friday night. This show was originally scheduled for another time. So thank you for being with me today. So what are we talking about today? Well, we're talking about the Bronx sniper, the infamous Bronx sniper, the person who's never been caught, still either out there roaming free or dead. Those are the only two options that we have. But this case happened, it existed, and there's some questions that we have about it. So because this is a very information dense show and we got a lot to discuss, let's just get started here on the presentation. Well, of course, first of all, let me take this off because there's one thing I want to say. Just a little disclaimer before we start this show that I'm not naming Berkowitz as the shooter. We're not going so far as to actually outright name this guy as the shooter. This show is speculation based on, well, deep knowledge of the case, deep knowledge of the personality of David Berkowitz and his particular criminological fingerprint, so to speak. And, well, just a curiosity about things to push the envelope. We're not satisfied with this, with any of the stories of Son of Sam, of course. We're certainly not satisfied with the official story of talking dog and lovers' lanes and long brown hair. And we're equally not interested in the story of the liar Maury Terry, the person who used Conan comic books as evidence. No, we're interested in a third way, and this third way is called reality. And this third way, I believe, is truly looking at Berkowitz for what he really was: a domestic terrorist and a stalking sniper. That's what Berkowitz was. He was a sniper. Does it matter that he didn't use a sniper rifle and a scope in Son of Sam? No, he used the .44 caliber, but his MO was of the sniper style of killing. And I think that we need to discuss this further, especially given the new set of cases of the Bronx sniper, which we're going to get into. So having said that disclaimer, let's just get started. Well, what are we looking at here? Well, we're looking, of course, now at a young Disco Dave, and this would have been about the age when he was doing this particular set of crimes, which actually resulted in 2 homicides. And one of the victims, you can see her eyes and her nose staring at somebody in the background. And if Berkowitz did it, that's one of the two people he killed. So, of course, some of you may be asking, what gives us the right? Like, why are we discussing David Berkowitz and other cases? You don't have the right to do that. You should be sticking directly as a Son of Sam researcher. You should only be dealing with July of 1976 to August of 1977. That's the only time that Berkowitz ever killed. He just came out of the ether in July 76 and decided to become a murderer, a domestic stalking sniper, a really good one. He eluded the NYPD for over a year while taunting them and terrorizing an entire city. This dude was very smart. He was very calculated. And so does that mean that he was already had some experience? I mean, maybe. And this is kind of where we're going. We're pushing the envelope of Son of Sam. And if you don't like it and you can't handle it, don't watch. If you think that we're doing this because somehow or other we're going to convict David Berkowitz and pin a new crime on him, I can assure you that that's not the case. The only reason why I'm doing this show right now publicly is because I was told there's no way to investigate this case. The files are gone. No one can find them. Believe me, we tried. We tried to find ballistics, all sorts of stuff, because this was a homicide. There's 2 homicides now. And nobody's ever been caught. And I just wanted to be able to clear or potentially name Berkowitz, because when you have ballistics, well, then there's some things you could actually investigate forensically. Alas, it was not to be. That's why we're out here. But what gives me the right? Well, we have a track record. Of course, for those of you who are new to this video series, who may not have been around the last year, we are the only Son of Sam researchers in the history of the case to actually add a canonical victim to the list of Son of Sam victims officially and through the proper channels of NYPD. Wendy Savino. David Berkowitz is named as her perpetrator. This is the front page of the case closing report from 5/30/2024. This happened because we found Wendy, and she had been showing this sketch for 50 years saying David Berkowitz shot me, and nobody cared until we came along, and we found her. And of course, that's the sketch of her perpetrator, which is a spitting image of David Berkowitz. And of course, after that, it led to some, little bit of press. YouTuber who helped ID first Son of Sam victim pushing very interested cops to find more bodies, because me and perhaps much more importantly, important person, Mike Lorenzo, my research partner, and of course, esteemed friend, and of course, a retired first grade detective with thousands of cases under his belt, who comes with a deep knowledge of the streets and criminology and criminal profiling. We found Wendy together, him and I, and this is another case that comes out of the Lorenzo Grossman nexus that we're going to be talking about today. So I'm interested in finding more bodies. I'm not interested in talking anymore about Maury Terry. I'm not interested anymore in talking about the official story and actually the shootings that were officially attributed to him, known as the Son of Sam crimes. I'm interested in pushing the envelope. If you're not interested in that, or if you can't handle this without flying off the handle and getting into all sorts of crazy conspiracy theories about what we're doing here, don't watch, okay? Not interested in your opinions on this. So let's take it from the beginning. Let's deal with now basic sniper criminology. So again, I didn't go too deep on this. I'm sure that there are YouTube shows about sniper criminology. that deals with the depths of this. I'm keeping it simple for you guys so we can have a show that, well, what we're doing is we're laying the foundation. We're building a case here. We're not even going to talk about the Bronx sniper cases for a little while. I'm going to build up some information because I'm trying to make the argument that Berkowitz did it. Am I naming him? No, I'm not. But I'm trying to make the argument that he did. He doesn't deserve respect for us not to talk about him. And his current fan club, I don't care if you're pissed off that I'm doing this. Who are you? You're gatekeepers of Son of Sam Truth. You mean nothing to me. So what I'm saying here is we're going to be dealing with this, and I'm going to be trying to make the argument that Disco Dave did it. And if you can't handle it, that's on you. Get to the ducking point. Thank you. All right. So former FBI profiler Mark Safarik, co-author of Spree Killers, Practical Classifications for Law Enforcement and Criminology, has a lot of experience with this topic. He makes some distinctions. Serial killers utilize a variety of methods to kill their victims. Most prefer to engage up close and personal, often using their hands to strangle the victim. Others prefer sharp force, such as cutting and stabbing, while still others prefer using blunt force to beat their victims to death. The personal nature of this type of killing makes them feel powerful, omnipotent, and in total control. Most derive immense pleasure, even sexual pleasure, in watching the life drain from their victim. However, those who kill from a distance with a firearm rarely see the victim's reaction. In many cases, they flee the scene before their victims succumb. They use this passive-aggressive manner of killing because they're not comfortable engaging their victims in their personal space. So, of course, this last paragraph here, this last couple of sentences, describes David Berkowitz to a T. And of course, the patient's first assignment actually preceded the incident cited in the present indictments. It was the winter of 1975 that he tried to kill a woman at Co-op City. I didn't know exactly what to do, how to kill somebody. His instructions said kill, but who? What? It was so hard to interpret everything. While driving at about midnight, he saw walking up a very pretty girl about 18 or 19 years old. Quickly, he parked his car, caught up with her on foot, and stabbed her from behind some 3 or 4 times with a 4-inch knife. After stabbing her once, he looked at her with amazement, thinking, "Why aren't you dead?" He had never heard anything like her screaming, and he soon fled, uncertain as to how much, if any, injury he had actually inflicted. About a week later, he read in a Co-op City newspaper that she had survived. And of course, this is talking about Michelle Foreman, who he stabbed in Co-op City in 1975, way before everything, really, before Wendy, a year and a half before Wendy. And so he has gone on record to say that he didn't like this. It was too up close and personal. He preferred a gun because it was less personal. So he fits the description of that profile that we talked about of the person who can't get up close and personal with their victims. A sniper shooter. All right, so let us carry on. And sorry if I'm not looking at the chat as much, guys, because I'm really, really into this. But I will, at certain points, look at the chat and try to answer any questions that you have. All right, so now that we've established snipers, now let's look at sniper types. And again, I'm dealing with this as though this is a master levels class. And this is how I used to teach at NYBG. This isn't so much entertainment today because we're dealing with really some serious stuff. So there's not going to be any jokes about Michael Vale Barron, Day Charnkowski car, and I'm certainly not going to talk about wheat car and all that stuff. But anyway, sniper types. Criminal snipers fall into one of two broad categories: the hit and run sniper and the barricaded sniper. The hit and run sniper is the more prevalent of the two. Every call of random shots fired is a possible hit and run sniper. These individuals take up a position of concealment, fire a few shots, and then withdraw to move to another hide. Their targets may be buildings, streetlights, or passing cars. In some cases, they will attack people. As people or police begin to recognize his presence and respond to it, the hit and run sniper will retreat. His escape will allow him to attack again at a time and place of his choosing. Mark Essex, who targeted New Orleans police officers in 72 and 73, is a prime example of the hit and run sniper. The most recent shooters in the DC area followed this pattern as well. And of course, you can say that David Berkowitz was a hit and run sniper, because even though he wasn't using a rifle, the targets were people. He'll retreat, and his escape will allow him to attack again at time and place of his choosing. So Son of Sam was a sniping attack, despite him being relatively close to his victims by dint of him having to use the 44. But remember, he used knives, he used Molotov cocktails, he used machine guns, he used rifles. This guy used a lot of weapons, including his face. He talked about how his smile was a huge part of his crime spree. And of course, remember that Wendy Savino's, it was even in the newspaper about the grinning gunman that shot her. So racially, snipers are mainly white. Okay. I hate to break the news to my Caucasoid brothers of the world, but unfortunately, my Caucasians of the world are heavily represented in the sniper and the spree shooter and the mass shooter. All right. So we got a lot of things going on here. So white. All right. We don't need to belabor that too much. Primary perpetrators are male, and their racial demographics are primarily white. So now that we've established some basic sniper criminology, again, you could do a whole show on this. Look it up if you're interested. There's probably 3-hour-long dissertations on the sniper and the criminology of the sniper. I gave you the Cliff Notes version, just enough to help make our case that Berkowitz might have perpetrated these crimes that we're going to talk about. So now let's go back in history to various historical sniper cases in the Bronx. And what I'm doing here is showing you how most of these sniper attacks, or in fact, pretty much all of them, except for certain ones, serial sniper attacks. Most sniper attacks are one and done, maybe 2 victims at once. And most sniper attacks are people who get caught in the act. So it isn't somebody who's retreating, who's going to another location at another time and place, who's manipulating the situation. And so I went back in history, and I did it in the Bronx, okay, because I wanted to keep this as close to home as possible. So we're not going to read all these articles. It gets boring. But basically, this is from 1948. The New York Post, Bronx sniper shoots girl and boy. And this took place on 184th in the Grand Concourse. A girl was walking by. She was shot in the left leg, and a boy was shot. And he thought it was a stone that hit him. And police are in the midst of the search for Miss Smith's assailant. I don't know if they found this guy. I didn't follow up. But this wasn't a homicide. It was just a Bronx, somebody one and done. Okay. It wasn't like a serial sustained attack. So of course, in the early days in 1956, there was a couple cases where telescopic sleuthing leads cop to trail a Bronx sniper, a civilian employee of the police department's engineering bureau, using surveying instruments to trace the course of a bullet fired across the Harlem River by a mystery sniper, was credited with the arrest of a youth. So person found, one and done, not a person who's doing this in a serial way. 1956. 1963, another trigonometry case that happens in the Bronx. We don't have to go through it, but it's kind of interesting. Marie Pinheiro found dead on the roof. trigonomic elimination. The slug was fired above the fourth floor and concentrated our efforts. So this is interesting stuff. And then they found this guy named Ronald Sassarone living in a fifth floor apartment 3/4 of a block away. So shot with a 22 rifle. He was pissed at his parents. He took aim at this woman and he shot her, and he was charged with homicide. So a sick person that would have somehow or other probably ended up in the law's clutches anyway. So here we have, this shouldn't have actually been called a sniper because this guy was actually out in the open shooting people. This was in the Bronx, 1968. And this guy got away, but they ended up catching him later. But this guy just walked out of his apartment. He was the super of an apartment building. And he just walked outside of the apartment and just started blowing people away on the street. Rapid fire shooting, thousands of spectators watching. Gunman appeared near the stoop of his tenement and started firing a 30 caliber automatic carbine, sawed off at the stock and at the barrel, and so far and so forth. So this guy was on the street, and gunman was believed to have run. Then he barricaded himself. So this is one of those barricading snipers that we saw, and they caught this guy pretty swiftly. Okay, so moving right along, this is our last one. And again, very typical for the sniper, not very anomalous, certainly not serial sniping. This took place in 1979. And again, an anonymous tip leads police to a teenage Bronx sniper. So this is another story, and it takes place on 161st Street, and 30 caliber carbine and 22 caliber rifle, and the girl was shot, and a tip got them. Anyway, they were arrested in the Bronx apartment. So the neighborhood caught these people. All right, this wasn't a case like we're going to see today in just a little bit, where the perpetrator has never been found. So get to ducking point. Who are you? I've never seen your name before. All right. I'm giving you what year was this? Was 79. This was 1968. This was 1963, trigonometry, and so on and so forth. All right. So now, what about the issue of serial sniping? Okay. Because now we're getting into the weeds here. We're getting into the nitty gritty. We're getting into the case that we're all here to learn about and to, well, reason together and discuss amongst ourselves as mature members of the Son of Sam truth community, the only Son of Sam research groups that matter, talking about reality. We're going to be talking about the case very soon, and it's going to be, in my opinion, very interesting. But what about serial sniping? All right, so we've learned so far, basically, guys, that like most snipers are just like people who go nuts in the moment, and they just shoot someone for no reason, and they get caught. That's it in a nutshell. Most of the time, the sniper will get caught. And if it's happening in a neighborhood, neighbors will tip off someone like, yo, that's the crazy Eddie over there. He was talking just last week about shooting people from his window, or yo, that's the dude who just came back from Vietnam. He's nuts. He's seeing shit in the middle of the night. He's threatening to shoot people out the window. He finally did it. Oh my God. Like, that's the kind of thing that are happening. But what about something anomalous, like a Son of Sam, right? Which was anomalous because it was a serial sniper attack. What's the deal with serial sniping? So I looked this up, and yes, I got it on this stupid AI overview, but I think it comports with reality. My question was, is serial sniping common? No, serial sniping is not common. While serial killings are relatively rare, accounting for only about 1% of all homicides in the US, serial sniping, which is the specific method of using a sniper rifle to kill multiple people over time, is even less frequent. The most well-known example is the 2001-2 DC sniper attacks, which involved Mohammed and Malvo, but this is an exception rather than a rule. So you're seeing here, oh, thank you, Get To. I appreciate I appreciate it. Thank you so much, Karen. I appreciate that. All right. So we're building a case here, guys. We're laying the foundation of reality in Son of Sam truth. So what have we learned so far? So most spree shooters, mass shooters, are white, and we're including snipers in this. Yes, even though Malvo and Mohammed were black, they were of my negroidal friends' persuasion. They were the exception. In fact, during that time, it was like, yo, there's black dudes doing this? That's crazy. That's what people were saying in real time. I was almost 30 years old when that was going on, so I remember it very well. Whoops. So most sniping attacks are hit and run, right? And most perps are caught through tips. Serial sniping, meaning a sustained campaign of shootings, is extremely rare. And the only sustained sniper style attack in New York City that I could find in the historical record was the Son of Sam. Well, I found another case, guys. I found the case of the Bronx sniper. He liked the night. So the Bronx sniper was a case that I have to give credit to where credit is due. This was found by Mike Lorenzo and made known to me, and subsequently made known to NYPD throughout the whole Wendy Savino thing. So this was going on about a year ago. And I'm not going to speak for Mike. I'm not going to talk more about his thought pattern behind this, because we may get a whiteboard out of him on this topic. So he'll do the talking for himself. But this has been a case that's been nagging me particularly. And I go back and forth like, nah, it's not him. It can't be him. We'll talk about the 22 rifle with the scope that he had. Milsurp has confirmed that could not have been the rifle used in this attack. So again, we're coming at this speculatively, but I think that you're going to be interested in the criminology of this case. And I think that you're going to be quite surprised at the ending, because I only found it 3 days ago, and that's why we're talking. If I hadn't found this ending that we're going to end on today 3 days ago, this case would have never been known by you guys. All right. The Bronx sniper. He liked the night. So this case took place in 1970. All right. I'm going to just pull up Google Earth real quick. This case took place in what's known as the Morrisania section of the Bronx. So right now we're looking at the Bronx here. And of course, we've been dealing primarily in this case over here in the East Bronx. But remember that Berkowitz lived in this area down here, and his father had a hardware store, right here. So 802 Melrose Avenue is the location of his hardware store. Let's go and see it. So this area right around here, that's bad here. This building right here that you see right here is the location of the hardware store. Okay. And it takes place in an area of low buildings and townhouses and so on and so forth. Relatively nice area in terms of the architecture. As far as the type of area it is, I believe this was basically a shithole. Turned into crap in the mid 70s. In fact, the sociology of this story comes into play, I believe, criminologically. This area was starting to turn when Berkowitz's father was getting older, and he was robbed in this store. So the store was in this building over here, 802 Melrose Avenue. Okay. And let's just get back to and let's get this to our south. The attacks that we're talking about. So right down here is where the hardware store was. Even though this looks like a far distance, this is actually only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 long blocks, and then like 1 or 2 avenues over. And Yankee Stadium is down here. And so it took place within walking distance. Hardware store was over here. Okay. And it took place in this area here. And there were 6 attacks and 1 homicide. I know I said 2. We'll deal with that later. So we'll look at this a little bit more when we come back to the attacks. But the shootings took place. The shooter was in one of these buildings and he was mobile because the attacks didn't all take place at the same spot. They took place in this neighborhood. So they happened around here and up and down Grant Avenue and on Morris Avenue and 169th. And we'll look at all these addresses. But generally speaking, the thing to know right now is that this took place in 1970 in the same neighborhood where David Berkowitz was working for his father's hardware store. It was 5 blocks away. And we have, of course, his USPS postal service, which nobody has ever seen in the world. The U.S. Postal Service application. Proving to you that he worked from June of 1970 to June of 1971, and he worked for 25 hours a week. And he worked for his supervisor, Nat Bogle, and he worked at Melrose Hardware, 802 Melrose Avenue, which was the building I just showed you. Okay, and why did he stop? He went into military service. He took care of materials and supplied store displays with merchandise. And of course, this is Berkowitz's characteristic handwriting. He has the 2 different K's in here, for crying out loud. If you compare this to the Breslin letter and the Borelli letter, it's exact. So there's a few things to understand here. 670 to 671, he was in this neighborhood. He worked 25 hours a week in this neighborhood, and he was there for a year. Okay. Daily News, Wednesday, September 2, 1970. Bronx sniper wounds 2. 2 Bronx residents were wounded by a sniper last night as they strolled on Grant Avenue near 169th Street. As police swarmed through the area, George Soto, 23, of 1120 Throyd Avenue was taken to Morrisania Hospital shortly after 11 p.m. with a gunshot wound in his back. And Deborah File, 18, of Morris Avenue with a neck wound. Both were in good condition. Police believe the shots came from a rooftop or high window. All right, so they were shot in the back and shot in the neck. These were kill shots. It's only by grace of God they survived. So this takes place in September 2nd, 1970. Berkowitz is associated with this area. He was known to roam. He walked for miles and miles. 5 blocks was nothing to Berkowitz. Now remember, I'm not saying Berkowitz did this. I'm making the case to you why I personally believe that he did. That's a big distinction. I'm not, and if you are swayed by my just simple belief that he did it, and then you think that he did it too because of that, well, that shows that your mind is not strong, because you got to take this and filter it through your own head, your own knowledge of the case, and let's reason together on this. Wendy was a fait accompli, guys. We presented you with a gift wrapped case that was a slam dunk right from the start, with a living witness and a positive identification, with a identical criminology and identical sketch. This one, well, it requires a little bit more thinking and a little bit more knowledge of the actual psychology of Berkowitz. So he didn't kill these two. Unfortunately, the Bronx sniper kills girl, first of 6 to die. And this is Margaret Iglesias, and this took place in October of 1970. So we just heard of September and then October of 1970. So these are happening monthly. This is a rather simple article. We're just going to start with this one first because it tells you the basic facts, and then we're going to read one that's a little bit deeper. A 16-year-old girl walking home from a party was shot and killed early Sunday by a sniper on a street in the Bronx, where 5 other persons have been wounded in recent snipings. The victim was Margaret Iglesias, who was walking with a friend on East 169th Street in the Morrisania section of the Bronx. As they came up a steep hill, the girl suddenly clutched her chest and told her friend, "I'm hurt. I'm bleeding. Get a doctor." The friend, Yvonne Vega, 14, ran home 3 blocks away to get help. Meanwhile, the sniper fired 2 more shots into Margaret's back, police said. She was dead on arrival at Morrisania Hospital. Police believe the weapon used was a .22 caliber rifle. More than 2 score police made a house-by-house search of the area, but no arrest was reported. Police said the investigation was continuing and that it was not being assumed that all 6 shootings were done by the same person. The snipings on that block, East 169th Street between Morris and Grant Avenues, began August 22nd. Okay, now, I couldn't find the articles for these, but luckily we have the historical record within this article. August 22nd is when all this started. A Saturday night when a 30-year-old man was shot in the chest. The following night, 2 women were shot, one suffering a leg wound, the other hit in the chest. On Tuesday night, September 1, a 19-year-old girl was wounded in the neck and a 23-year-old man shot in the back. And that's what we read here. So we're hearing now about a spree that starts in August, goes to October. 6 people are shot and 1 girl dies. Sniper slays girl, 16, 6th victim in the Bronx. By Daniel O'Grady, and I hate to say it, but I got to be honest, Paul 2 men drove away mescal. Luckily, we're not dealing with the nitty-gritty of details, whether they're right or wrong. We're more interested in the criminology and the overall facts of the case. A pretty 16-year-old schoolgirl was slain by a sniper early yesterday on a Bronx block where 5 other persons have been shot recently, all apparently by the same crazed gunman. The girl, shot once in the chest and twice in the back, was Margaret Iglesias, a junior at St. Barnabas High School, Bronx. Margaret and her best friend, Yvonne Vegaro, 14, were walking to their apartment building, 1230 Sheridan Avenue, around 2 a.m. when the sniper spotted them. The girls had been to a party at a friend's apartment on East 169th Street. As they walked along 169th Street between Morris and Grant Avenue, a shot rang out, and Margaret clutched the left side of her chest. Doubling over in pain, she gasped, "I'm hurt. I'm bleeding. Get a doctor." Terrified, Yvonne ran toward the apartment house 3 blocks away to summon help. She heard 2 more shots as the phantom sniper pumped bullets into Margaret's back. And look, there was a sniper info set up, just like Son of Sam. Police set up a special phone, CY, for calls from persons having information about the Bronx sniper. That just happened to take place in the neighborhood Berkowitz was working in. Right after he starts working for his father, all of these things start. Margaret Iglesias, here's the rest of that article. "I'm hurt, I'm bleeding, get a doctor." Terrified, Yvonne ran toward their apartment house 3 blocks away to summon help. She heard 2 more shots as the phantom sniper pumped bullets into Margaret's back. Neighbors also heard the shots and called the police. Patrolmen rushed the girl to Morrisania Hospital, but she was already dead. More than 50 policemen searched the area. All they found was a smashed 22 caliber rifle bullet. Investigators were unable to determine where the shots came from. The 5 previous victims, all of whom survived, were shot on 169th between Morris and Grant Avenue. The senseless shooting started on Saturday night, August 22nd, when a 30-year-old man was hit in the chest by a rifle slug. The following night, 2 women were shot. One was hit in the left thigh, the other in the chest. The phantom sniper claimed 2 more victims on the night of September 1st. Deborah File, 19, of 1226 Morris Avenue, was wounded in the neck. George Soto, 23, 1120 Theriot Avenue, Bronx, was shot in the back and the bullet lodged in his stomach. As they did after the previous shootings, detectives searched all the buildings in the area yesterday and questioned residents. Margaret lived in a comfortable 6th-floor apartment with her parents, Mr. and Mrs. Martin Iglesias, a sister, Arlene, and a 7-year-old brother, Martin Jr. Neighbors described Margaret as a quiet, friendly, well-behaved girl. She had expected to return home from the Saturday night party around midnight, but phoned her father at 11 p.m. and asked his permission to stay out late. She never stayed out late without permission, a neighbor said. If her father said come home, she'd come home. I still can't believe it, said another neighbor, Joanne Kerwin. She was such a nice girl. She never hurt anyone. They have to catch this guy soon, Miss Kerwin added. Any one of us could be next. Residents of the murder block were outdoors as usual yesterday. Kids were playing in the street and men were enjoying the autumn sunshine on the stoops. But as darkness fell, the block was almost deserted except for cruising patrol cars. He likes the night, a man observed, as he went inside and locked his door. And of course, we remember Berkowitz said, at night, I belong to Sam. So Berkowitz had something with night, and so this is an astute observation here. He likes the night. This article could have been talking about a young 17-year-old David Berkowitz. Thank you very much, Ralph, dude. I appreciate that. Your opinion means a lot to me. So just a few more slides. This is from the gray lady, the New York Times from October 19th of 1970. Bronx girl 16 killed by sniper. 5 other wounded on same block in last 2 months. So this basically talks about the same thing, a special telephone number. This is what I found interesting. Detectives at the Bathgate Avenue station said they were going on the assumption that the sniper was a teenager. Isn't that interesting? Whoops. The sniper was a teenager. Now, they also said they had no information to link the last sniper with the killings, but I mean, 2 + 2 = 4. So they're basically talking about the same the same incident. We don't have to go nuts. But a friend of mine got shot about a month ago on the same corner where that girl got shot today, and so this was a neighborhood where they were dealing with this sniper that was just shooting people for no for no reason. Dude was never caught. And it happened from excuse me. So far, we know it happened from August to October. August, September, October, over a 3-month period. Okay, so that's where that case lay. And although tantalizing, right? And I'm sorry, I'm so dark. I'm dealing with a new camera today that's like not as light as my old one. While tantalizing to think that this, could be David Berkowitz, it's tentative, it's reaching. Yeah, he was in the neighborhood that year. Yeah, no snipings happened before he was there, and then he's there, and all these snipings happen. And then when he leaves, all these snipings stop, or these snipings don't happen again after a certain amount of period of time. But not really much there, right? So that was one of the reasons why I didn't want to go public with this case. But I was researching this case the other day, and I stumbled upon an article by accident. This was completely and utterly and fully by accident. And finding this really made me go stop and say, whoa, there might be really something here. Sent it to Lorenzo, who agreed. I sent it to a couple other law enforcement friends of mine who were pretty impressed at finding this particular case. And I'm going to show you why. Well, this is about, wait, hold up over here. Why? Well, I came across an article from July 16th of 1970 in the New York Times. Right? Published July 16th, 1970. Now, why am I showing his postal service thing at the hardware store again? 802 Melrose, because this is proof here. Right? First-hand proof from the hand of David Berkowitz himself. He was in this neighborhood, 802 Melrose Avenue, from June, 1 month before July. June 1970 to June 1971, 25 hours a week. And most likely it was a summer job, right? Once school started, he stopped coming to the neighborhood as much. Boy 3, shot and dead in crib. Bronx sniper is shot. A 3-year-old Bronx child was fatally shot in his crib early this morning in an apartment at 375 East 159th Street in the Morrisania section of the Bronx. The police said that they were checking adjoining buildings for the possible sniper. The child, Osvaldo Vargas, son of Miguel and Dolores Vargas, was shot in the back and left wrist, apparently by 2 bullets that came through the window of the ground floor apartment. He was pronounced dead on arrival at Morrisania Hospital. So this dude, Berkowitz, starts in June of 1970. In July 16th of 1970, there's a sniper attack where a 3-year-old child is killed. Let's see where this happened. Okay, and let's start our inquiry from the hardware store. Give me a second here. All right, so just to recap, the Bronx sniper cases again took place up here, 169th between Morris and Grant, a scant 5, 6 blocks, 7 blocks at the most, not even a mile walk, takes you about 6-7 minutes to get there. The hardware store was here, 802 Melrose Avenue. Yo. The shooting of Osvaldo took place here, literally right around the corner from the hardware store. You catching this, guys? So whereas the other attacks were up here, and remember, I'm magnified, they're a 7-minute walk away. The first sniper attack, which was not even listed as part of the other attacks, this was a separate sniper attack that was not mentioned in those other articles. The first attack takes place literally around the corner from the hardware store. And so what are we to do with that information? Let's just take a look. Here's the hardware store right here. We'll take the walk. Going up 1 short block. Turning here. And walking down here. And this particular building was, I'll get to it right here. This right here. Maybe this right here. I'm not. One of these right here. Maybe this right here. One of these. And these might even be new construction. That's old. but it was 350. What was it? I'll look at it, but it was one of these. And of course, right across the street is you know, a place where anybody with a little bit of climbing skills could have jumped on to this freaking I'm not now this is 2025, right? But this is the same infrastructure. Anybody who wants to could have jumped onto here and shot through the window. Okay. So anyhow, that took place literally right around the corner uh from the hardware store. And I don't know what to do with that, right? Because this takes place a month after he starts, maybe not even 2 weeks, because maybe he started at the end of June, because that's when school finishes. Now, I want to show you that Berkowitz was well versed with sniper rifles and scopes. This was not the one that he could have used for these if he was the perpetrator. Millsap ran the serial number, and this is a post 1970 rifle. But Berkowitz had a disassembled 22 caliber Glenfield Model 60 22 caliber long rifle and a Glenfield 4x15 power scope, optic-centered, and other ammunition. So this was a dude who was caught with a sniper rifle and a scope. He just decided one day to pick up a rifle, a sniper rifle in his 20s. He could have. I don't know. That's why we're sitting here reasoning together. In conclusion, so before June 1970, this, and I looked for these attacks. They only started now in July. Before June of 1970, this neighborhood experiences no sniper attacks, and certainly none of the rarest of the rare serial sniper attacks. Berkowitz starts at the hardware store in June 1970, working 25 hours a week until June 1971. It's a reasonable conclusion to conclude that he's in that neighborhood a lot. In July 1970, a sniper shooting a block from the hardware store kills a 3-year-old. Over the next 4 months, ending in October of 1970, 6 more people are shot sniper style. 1 more homicide results, that of a 16-year-old girl. Berkowitz enlists in the army before he can work at the store another summer. The neighborhood never experiences a serial sniper attack again. So that, my friends, is the presentation that I have for you guys. Let me see if there's any. The shootings were all at night. During the day, he could scope the area looking completely normal. Yeah, absolutely. He was just a normal Jewish kid walking in a neighborhood that was kind of changing. It was going from Jewish to Black and Hispanic. So yeah, it looks like the chat was kind of light today. Yeah, nothing really engaging with the material too deeply, but that's cool. That's all right. So, all right. I think that's basically all I have for you. I don't think we should belabor the point. So what we're going to do with this is I'm going to do another live stream just concentrating on one article from the New York Times because it was very interesting. It's an article about how these sniper attacks, it was like a full page thing. This was a big story in 1970 for a few months. And no one was ever caught. We're going to do one more live stream on this article, and it talks about the sociology about how this neighborhood is changing. Everybody's moving to co-op city, which was kind of an interesting observation, and how the neighborhood was getting more dangerous and so on and so forth. There was some bad blood between the Jewish old schoolers and the new people who were moving in. So everything might come into this story. Remember, Berkowitz was pissed off at the fact that his father was robbed. And he talked about how the changing neighborhood made them leave Soundview, and how his father didn't feel safe at the hardware store anymore. So Berkowitz might have harbored anger at the newcomers in the neighborhood, and that's why Osvaldo Vega was shot, and that's why Margaret Iglesias and Soto was shot. So anyway, all speculation. Again, we are hold on. So no, what we have only, Ralph dude, is, let me get this share back. Hold on. The only thing we have regarding Berkowitz and a rifle was that at one point he owned one. This is not pre 1970 rifle. This could not have been the rifle that if he was the perp that he would have used in this case. But he did have here, as you can see, a Glenfield 22 caliber with a scope. And Ralph is saying, and have we identified areas like parks, hillside parking? So, well, let's go look at the neighborhood, Ralph. This is a great question. So let's look at the neighborhood where the bulk of the sniper attacks were at. Let's look at the Iglesias site and and those other sites up there, a little bit more north of here. Let me just get north and south. So okay, that's south and north. So remember just this last thing, and just make sure that you're showing it to you. Yes. So thank you, Ralph. Love the question. And Lorenzo's going to speak to this more because he's the detective. I'm dealing more with the sociology and the basic criminology. So here is the site of those attacks. We already looked at the site we already looked at the building across the street. This is where the Iglesias attack took place. Remember, the article mentioned that it took place at the beginning of a steep hill. So here's a steep hill. So Ralph, dude, I mean, I'm just going to pan around. I don't know. There might have been a building here in this corner, but easily accessible fire escapes from the street. Berkowitz loved to climb, which could have easily got him up to a certain site, maybe not onto the roof. And so you're seeing the neighborhood here. And then, of course, there is this park. I don't know if this park was here before. And then, of course, there's this whole row of buildings up here. So Nikozmas says, and I agree, this was great how it starts and stops with his arrival is strange. Yes. It takes place when Berkey comes to town. All of a sudden, girls are being shot sniper style. Babies are being killed, 3-year-olds. So Ralph makes some great points. Owning a scope 22 several years later is certainly interesting circumstantial because it shows he had at some point interest in and familiarity with the weapon of the kind that was used here. And Nikozmas writes regarding the buildings, you could just walk in back then. Very true. Ralph Dude writes, he may have been able to access roofs of those buildings. Who knows? 22s are not loud. Yeah. Ralph, these are great questions, and Lorenzo's going to deal with all of this in his whiteboard on this. So, yeah. So you're seeing the neighborhood. This was that hill that she was talking about. So she was probably shot on this corner here or this corner here. Doesn't really specify. But I wonder why that's blacked out over there. But yeah, and the other shooting took place on a different spot. It took place like up the street and around here somewhere. So that shows that whoever this wasn't doing it from one building. It was a mobile shooter. So there's a lot of interesting questions with regard to the Bronx sniper. Hey, Dom's here. Awesome. It's interesting that one was of a sniper shooting. It indicates I believe it came from higher up than the baby, not the sidewalk or passing car. Firing from a car is also a possibility. Yes. Although Berkowitz didn't drive. So if it was Berkowitz, he probably wouldn't have been in a car. And again, The question is if it was. There's a lot of really criminologically wise, there's a lot of interesting smoke here. And to me, guys, the thing that took this over the top was the finding of the sniping around the corner from the hardware store 2 weeks after Berkey comes to town. So there's things to think about, and we're never going to find the answers. This is a cold case. All these cases are cold. No perps have never been found. And the only reason why I'm talking about this publicly is because Berkowitz cannot be found guilty or innocent one way or the other about it. The records don't exist. The ballistics don't exist. It's not possible to connect him to this crime at this point. There's nothing to go on. This is a dead case. If he did it, he got away with it. But my point is, if he did it, and I know that the phone's going to be ringing in Sullivan County very soon. If he did this, guys, well, this is just one more thing on his alleged Christian conscience. And he doesn't deserve our grace or respect. We're not members of his fan club, or at least I'm not. So anyway, guys, listen, awesome show. Thank you very much for indulging me once again in flights of fancy and this time some serious speculative, but with educated speculation. That's what we're doing here today, and hopefully we'll keep the conversation going. All right, guys. So keep an eye out. I'm going to be doing another live stream soon with that New York Times article that we're just going to devote the entire show to that. It's going to be it's actually a really poignant article. I think it's going to be a good show. And then we're going to get Lorenzo to whiteboard this. So we'll see you later, guys. Thank you very much. Take care.